Woo's eyes opened much wider. Too fast. Jinwoo barely evaded the Cerberus's fangs by sliding underneath the leaping monster. The Cerberus landed back on the ground and spun around, before began biting at him with its 3 heads. The sharp fangs gleamed coldly in between the biting snouts, a title given to a hunter skilled in hunting wolves. When facing animal-type monsters, all of your stats will increase by 40%. He sensed his body getting lighter. Nice. Jinwoo quickly retreated and wielded his dagger at the Cerberus as it continued to stick close to him. The dagger collided with the fangs and issued loud noises. The blade moved at a blinding pace, yet all he could do at the moment was to deflect the Cerberus's attacks and nothing else. Even after I buffed up, it's still this strong. The Cerberus's agility had easily exceeded his imaginations. In order to overturn this situation, Jinwoo activated his intimidation skill. Jinwoo's eyes widened. It didn't work. It was at that moment that the long tail of Cerberus flew in like a whip. Whoosh! Jinwoo reflexively ducked his head lower and evaded the tail. But that caused his legs to stop moving for a second. And the monster didn't miss this opportunity. One of its heads powerfully bit into Jinwoo's left shoulder. Jinwoo summoned all of his strength and stabbed the dagger into the middle of the biting head. The Cerberus cried out and let go of him. Thankfully, he was able to minimize the damage done before other heads had the chance to join in on the attack. But his left shoulder was now in tatters. What a scary biting power that was. He tried to move his left arm, but it didn't want to budge. Jinwoo's expression crumpled unsightly. He managed to wound the Cerberus, but when comparing the severity of their injuries, then it was clear that he came off far worse in that exchange. Then, something else happened. The eyes of the Cerberus were being dyed in a crimson color all of a sudden. Inexplicably, Jinwoo sensed something ominous was about to happen. What could it be? Jinwoo cried out. What did you just say? A monster just used a skill. In that instant, the Cerberus leaped off the ground. FCK. Even before he could react, the Cerberus appeared right before his eyes. He hurriedly swung his dagger, but it only managed to graze the side of one of its heads, and all 3 heads bit into Jinwoo simultaneously. The Cerberus ran at its top speed and slammed Jinwoo against the castle's gate. Slam! Jinwoo's HP hit the rock bottom in an instant. Thanks to the damage reduction and the tenacity passive, he was able to avoid getting killed in one hit. Jinwoo's eyebrows shot up in anger. It'd be easy to go mad from pain and wildly thrash about, but he'd lose this great opportunity, which would most likely never happen again. Losing his consciousness now would mean his end. He immediately collected the first reward from the daily quest he had saved up until now. A blue light enveloped him and all depleted health reverted back to full. Even his tattered left arm was healed as good as new in the blink of an eye. This is my chance. Jinwoo's eyes gleamed coldly. In such close proximity, no matter how agile this monster was, it did not be able to dodge his attacks. Jinwoo rapidly caught one of Cerberus's necks with his left arm, and stabbed the poison fang of Kasaka in the middle of that neck. Stab, stab, stab. The rage state had ended by now, and the Cerberus began to violently thrash about trying to escape from Jinwoo's embrace. However, Jinwoo did not let go and held on with his powerful arms. The harder the Cerberus struggled, the stronger he gripped the neck of the monster. In the meantime, his dagger continued to stab into the creature's neck. The Cerberus bit into Jinwoo as it struggled to the bitter end. But the battle had already been decided by then. In the end, the heads of the Cerberus fell to the side, lifeless. In one breath, his level rose up by 4. That was how difficult this battle was. Jinwoo only let go of the Cerberus's neck after confirming its body going limp with his own eyes. The heavy body sprawled to the floor without any resistance whatsoever. Only now could he breathe a sigh of relief. A monster that could use a skill, if he didn't prepare a hidden trump card, then he'd have been killed for sure. A chill crawled down his spine just from thinking about it. After calming himself down, Jinwoo reached out towards the Cerberus. A steel necklace originally found around one of the Cerberus's necks, a gray key, and 3 molars of a monster appeared in his hand. Rarity A. Type necklace. Agility +20, perception +20. Rarity A. Type key. The key to unlock the gates of the demon's castle. Can only be acquired after killing the gatekeeper. Rarity none. Type miscellaneous. Oh, Jinwoo's eyes went round. This necklace can boost both my agility and perception by 20 points. A necklace with eye-spinningly good options came out. Its rarity was also ranked out of all the items he'd seen so far. This one featured the highest rarity ranking yet. It was a rather nice baseline to judge the overall difficulty of this dungeon. In other words, the difficulty of clearing the demon's castle would be incredibly high. Jinwoo stared up at the burning tower. Crackle, pop. The very top of the structure was completely shrouded in some kind of blurry fog. He had to actually enter the tower if he wanted to see what was going on inside. But Jinwoo shook his head. Now's not the time. He only barely managed to hunt down a single sentry standing guard by the door, even with his title buffing him up and resorting to using up the quest reward, too. He couldn't even guess just what kind of danger would be waiting for him beyond that gate. Although he was slightly unwilling, he stored the gray key inside his inventory. I'll return, definitely, very soon. Jinwoo smiled as he turned around to leave. Pardon me, young man. I see that you're feeling much better now. A rather friendly voice came from behind him and Jinwoo turned around to look who it was. Who is he? Because of his high perception stat, he knew that there was a hunter nearby. But this was a supermarket where lots of people came and went, and hunters also had to go shopping too, so he didn't dwell on the matter for long. However, he didn't expect that hunter to engage him in conversation. Not only that, a hunter he actually knew, too. Jinwoo's expression brightened in an instant. Mr. Song. Song Kai-yol looked at Seong Jinwoo with an expression half in disbelief and the other half in delight. I did hear the news that you were fine, but I still can't believe it, even after running into you like this. Song Kai-yol's gaze naturally headed lower, and then his eyes grew extra wide in shock. Your leg. Jinwoo calmly made his reply. When I came to, my leg had been all healed up. Even I'm not sure what happened to me. A healer ranked S could reputedly heal a person who was ripped to shreds back to normal, as long as the victim was still alive. What if a high-ranking healer healed Jinwoo's injuries while he was unconscious? If that was the case, then his severed leg being reattached didn't even qualify as a miracle. It'd do no good to see a young man such as yourself become disabled like that. What a relief this is. What a relief. Song Kai-yol lightly patted his chest as if a big weight of his had been lifted off his shoulders now. It was then Jinwoo's gaze drifted towards Song Kai-yol's left arm. The older man's sleeve was empty. Song Kai-yol chuckled and massaged his left shoulder. Don't you worry about it. A hunter getting injured during a raid is a normal occurrence, after all. No, I've been lucky for not running into an accident until then. Song Kai-yol spoke as if it wasn't much to fret over, but the gazes of other people walking by weren't like that. Song Kai-yol came to a stop where it was quiet and isolated. Jinwoo also stopped there. Song Kai-yol turned to look at Jinwoo and before the youth could stop him, bowed his head 90 degrees. Mr. Seong, thank you. If you say 11 people died because of me, then you are responsible for saving 6 lives that day. My share of the blame in that matter is the biggest, so on the behalf of all the hunters who were there, let me say thank you. Song Kai-yol meant every word he spoke, and Jinwoo could feel the older man's sincerity as well. The situation had become somewhat awkward, but it didn't feel so bad. How should he go about describing it? He was feeling proud. Of course, that didn't mean he should let an elder remain in that bowing position. The two men arrived at the meeting place. The gate had formed in the middle of the road pretty close to residential areas, so the police officers called in to control the access to the location. However, there were almost no onlookers present here to begin with. The majority of gates the association took on were those dangerous ones that had been left alone for too long after their initial discovery. Besides, even if one were to stick around a gate, one would still not get to see how hunters fought. Anyway, it was only a couple of curious, naughty kids loitering around who got chased away by the officers every now and then. When Jinwoo and Song Kai-yol approached closer, the two hunters awkwardly averted their gazes. Jinwoo narrowed his eyes. But, of course, these two happened to be Kim Sang-sik, who ran off trying to save only himself, and the other male hunter who had discarded the injured Jinwoo. Of course, they would find it rather awkward to face him. Excuse me, Mr. Seong. Kim Sang-sik was thinking of at least greeting the youth, but when he was subjected to Jinwoo's cold glare, he eventually shifted his gaze away. There she is. Jinwoo also turned his head in the direction Song Kai-yol was looking at. But, before he had the chance to completely turn around to look, Mr. Jinwoo, something rather soft suddenly hugged him tightly. Miss Ju Hui. While Jinwoo was getting flustered, Ju Hui was too busy making sure he was fine with a tearful face. Are you all right? You are not hurt anywhere, right? Your leg. Mr. Jinwoo, how come your leg is? Ju Hui's eyes went extra round as she alternated her gaze between his face and his leg. Oh, that. Just as Jinwoo was about to reply. How steamy, eh? It's steamy, I say. Both the gazes of Jinwoo and Ju Hui shifted over in the direction of that voice. From afar, an unknown man was whistling loudly at them. Is there a film shoot going on around nearby or something? While Jinwoo was tilting his head in confusion, a man wearing a business suit climbed down from the front seat of a certain minivan. Shut your mouth. He quickly threw an oily wink at Ju Hui when the business suit looked back inside the van. Immediately, Jin Woo's expression crumpled. 2 more people climbed out of the van right away. Both of them were men, and particularly worthy of note was the fact that they all wore prison overalls and had been cuffed as well. The employee called for the hunters to gather around. These folks are the replacement convicts who will participate in the raid alongside you, hunters. And so, the expressions of the hunters hardened considerably. Kim Sang-sik was the first to step forward. What? Replacement convicts? Are you telling us to go on a raid along with a bunch of criminals? Hunters who had committed crimes had 2 choices. Either spend their allotted time behind the bars, or cooperate with the association and reduce their sentences. Most chose the latter option, and they were referred to as the replacement convicts. The association employee repeatedly lowered her head. I'm really sorry about this. It's only because the number of hunters active in our district has declined so much that the association has no choice but to do this. However, they will be accompanied by a hunter from the monitoring division, so you don't have to worry too much. Kim Sang-sik asked, still full of suspicion. A hunter from the monitoring division, you say? Yes, all the convicts are rank CS, but the hunter from the monitoring division is actually a rank B, so there is nothing for you to worry about. Kim Sang-sik nodded his head. The popular opinion stated that you'd need around 10 C-rank hunters in order to contend against a single hunter ranked B. Well, a B rank was personally coming to monitor the troublemakers, not to mention participating in the raid itself, so there was no reason to say no here. Something's off here. He could sense a minute trace of murderous intent flowing between those 4. Was this also one of the facets of the enhanced perception stat? Or was he simply being overly cautious? In any case, he was overcome with this unexplainable anxiety all of a sudden. So, Jin Woo whispered in Ju Hui's ear, Miss Ju Hui, please don't participate in this raid. Ju Hui looked up at Jin Woo's eyes and asked back, what about you, Mr. Jin Woo? Rather than answering her, he too asked back, if I say I'll be going, well, in that case, I'm going too. She looked like she'd follow him, no matter what. I'm sure she's only doing this because she's concerned about me. And he learned through prior experience that, whenever Ju Hui's face was forming that expression, she'd suddenly become a very stubborn young lady, and she'd never change her mind. No matter what. There shouldn't be a problem with me around, right? After all, he had experience dealing with Hwang Dong-seok's gang, which contained 5 rank CS in their midst. The agent from the monitoring division finished signing on all of the documents, and then came to speak to the gathered hunters. My name is Kong T-sik from the monitoring division. I believe you've been informed of the situation. I'll keep a very close eye on those 3, so you can rest easy. Kong T-sik then beckoned the 3 convicts to come closer. They all trudged towards him and presented their hands. With a practiced hand of his own, Kong T-sik swiftly undid their cuffs. Wowzers, I thought I was gonna die from the stuffiness just now. We ain't even slaves, so isn't it against our rights for you to drag us around here and there like this? The convicts massaged their freed wrists and continued to pile on their complaints. With Song Kai-yeol in the lead, hunters entered the gate one by one. Let's get going as well. Jin Woo and Ju Hui also entered the gate, albeit at the same time. Perhaps the trauma from the last incident remained with her, because she ever so slightly held onto Jin Woo's sleeve. Goblins were the main enemies for this dungeon. They were the weakest of all man-type monsters out there, so clearing the dungeon itself wasn't hard at all. These strange-looking creatures were weak enough for Jin Woo to fight evenly one-on-one even before he got his power boost. Still, Jin Woo did his utmost best to carefully hunt goblins with his bare hands. The C-ranked convicts must have been really excited by the taste of freedom because they were wildly swinging their weapons and energetically ripped goblins to shreds. From that scene alone, it was difficult to tell apart just who were the monsters and who were the humans there. A forked road with 3 paths appeared before them. Kong T-sik made a suggestion to Song Kai-yeol. Since the difficulty of the dungeon is low, how about splitting up from here onwards? Yes, let's do that. Song Kai-yeol readily agreed to that idea. Jin Woo closed his eyes and extended his perception to the max. Now, which path leads to the boss? He was hoping that maybe the boss would give him a few experience points, at the very least. Soon enough, he could pick up on the auras of all living creatures inside the dungeon. Jin Woo opened his eyes and spoke to Song Kai-yeol. Let's go left. Okay. Jin Woo, Song Kai-yeol, and Ju Hui chose the left pathway. Kong T-sik and the 3 convicts the right one, and the remaining 2 went down the middle one. Jin Woo's heart began beating a little bit faster. The boss is at the end of this passage. Although it couldn't be described as strong, a unique and different aura from that of a goblin was leaking out from the end of this cavern-like passageway. He wanted to quickly kill the boss. However, groups of goblins kept jumping out at him every couple of steps he took, and this hindered their progress. and this time there were around 10 of them or so. One carried a wooden club, one held a wooden sword, one even held a long wooden shaft with a stone shard crudely tied around the tip. They had armed themselves to the best of their abilities, but none of them managed to threaten him. Haven't you guys had enough yet? Jinwoo frowned really deeply. And so, as they steadily cleared the dungeon, out of the blue, screams reverberated throughout the dungeon from somewhere, one after the other. Those weren't from the goblins. No, they definitely belonged to humans. Jinwoo, Song Kai-yeol, and Lee Ju-hui exchanged glances. They thought the things had calmed down, only for yet another desperate scream to enter their ears. Song Kai-yeol's expression hardened. Let's go take a look. The three of them quickly ran to where the screams came from. Jinwoo could have run faster than his two companions, but for the sake of their safety, matched their speeds. Just how long did they have to run? Ju-hui cried out in alarm after finding a person. There's a person there, and it just so happened to be the hunter from the monitoring division, Kong T-sik. Ju-hui couldn't watch on anymore and hurriedly ran towards Kong T-sik. Hold on, I'll heal you right now. Kong T-sik rapidly raised his upper body up and took aim at the center of Ju-hui's neck with his hand full of magical energy. Swish! Just before his fingertip could touch Ju-hui's Adam's apple, someone managed to grab Kong T-sik's wrist just in time. Kong T-sik's gaze followed the hand grabbing his wrist and to its owner, and Jinwoo's face was at the end. Jinwoo's eyes were emitting a very strong light of murderous intent. Kong T-sik frowned deeply. How dare you, a FC King Association bottom feeder. Kong T-sik hurriedly yanked his arm loose from Jinwoo's grasp. Now that both of his hands were freed, Kong T-sik began pouring out attacks without a rest. However, Jinwoo also moved at the speed that didn't lose out to Kong T-sik and went on the offensive of his own. Two fists and arms belonging to men endlessly collided and traded countless blows. None of them showed any signs of backing off. Seizing this opportunity, Song Kai-yeol quickly dragged Ju-hui away from the area. However, there was one person here who was even more shocked than Ju-hui, and that was none other than Song Kai-yeol. Just how on earth is this possible? This fierce battle unfolding at a scarcely believable speed. He was having a hard time trying to follow with his eyes. Something like that was expected of a high-ranked hunter, so that was fine. But then, the Seong Jinwoo fighting that man couldn't have been the same person from Song Kai-yeol's memories. The youth was definitely not losing out against a rank B hunter at all. I'm a C rank, and even I can't follow his movements with my eyes. Indeed, his gut feeling proved to be right. The Jinwoo in front of his eyes right now was not the same youth from his memories, an E rank who was weak but possessing a good head on his shoulders. In the blink of an eye, the two traded hundreds of blows and they quickly stepped back while trying to catch their breaths. Kong T-sik couldn't control his curiosity and asked out aloud. Who the hell are you? What rank are you? Jinwoo summoned the poison fang of Kasaka, and while grasping it tightly in his hand, replied rather curtly. Seong Jinwoo, I'm rank E. Kong T-sik felt like someone had hit him in the back of his head. A B-star that displayed the movement equal to his own speed, which was unmatched within the rank B, introduced himself as a measly rank E just now. Is he trying to make fun of me? Kong T-sik gnashed his teeth. No, hang on. Indeed, there was something odd here. If he's really a high-rank hunter, there is no reason for him to be here, isn't it? The jobs these bottom feeder association hunters did were quite obvious. Their main role was to clear those gates that guilds and freelancers gave up on because of their low monetary values. Their earnings were pathetically small compared to other hunters, and they were not widely acknowledged by other hunters, either. In other words, there was a very good chance that this B-star really was an E rank. Only that, his abilities were anything but. Still, a fake registrant wouldn't brazenly work under the association like this, so Kong T-sik eventually arrived at the only logical conclusion. He's a reawakened. When he thought about it, he remembered the upper echelons of the association getting a bit noisier with a rumor of someone going through a reawakening somewhere nearby this location. And that person was supposedly a hunter affiliated with the association. He should have memorized that name back then, as that matter happened only a couple of weeks ago. If this B-star had been delaying getting a reassignment test for some reason until now, it was very much possible for him to remain as an E rank and assist the association with their work. Who could have guessed that such a guy would show up today? Kong T-sik had made sure to perform thorough background checks on the hunters participating in today's raid, but he had missed the existence of this one. I really have terrible luck, don't I? That's the only conclusion he could arrive at. I should have asked for more money if things turned out this way. Kong T-sik recalled the events of a few days ago while licking his dried lips. A cafe near the headquarters of the association. The middle-aged man muttered as if he was speaking to himself. I've heard that no one knows what happens exactly inside dungeons. The man's voice was so soft that Kong T-Sik had to ask again. What did you say? This is every cent I have in my name. And why are you showing me this? When Kong T-Sik formed a questioning expression, the middle-aged man's head dropped lower. Among the criminals you're in charge of, there is one who had hurt my little girl. Because of that, she took her own life, and my wife is still in the hospital from the shock. The middle-aged man's voice became tearful. Yet, such a beastard will be able to roam the streets again in a few years' time. You think I'll be able to rest easy knowing that? The man raised his sorrow and rage-filled face. I'm sure you can already tell what I'm implying here. The man lowered his head again. I beg of you, Hunter Nim. A deafening silence descended between these two men. Kong T-Sik leaned against the back of his chair and fell into a deep contemplation. Can you guess why I chose to work for the association's monitoring division? Pardon me. The middle-aged man raised his head. Kong T-Sik explained himself. As a B-rank hunter, I'm considered as one of the higher-ranked hunters. Large guilds continue to send their scouting offers in my direction all the time. Yet, can you guess why I persist in doing this job while getting a pittance in return? I don't know. The corners of Kong T-Sik's lips arched up. You see, I find it more enjoyable to fight against people rather than monsters. In that sense, the monitoring division was like the heaven-sent job for Kong T-Sik. Well, he could beat up other hunters in the name of the law, after all. And he'd end up killing one or two due to unavoidable circumstances, too. The father of a girl who was raped by those beastards came to ask me for the favor. Those beastards were animals worthy of getting killed. And I simply took care of animals that hurt other people, that was all. The ranky hunter was listening without saying anything. Although the matter had come down to this, I don't wish to hurt you. How about ignoring today's matter altogether? As long as we make this deal here, I promise I won't try anything to you and your group. Of course, he couldn't let a potential source of trouble fester. You should have said those things before you tried your little tricks. You want us to ignore everything just because you failed your sneak attack. That man didn't say anything wrong there. Kong T-Sik smirked in dumbfoundedness. In the end, you want to have a go, is that it? Where did he get his dagger from? Since before he had noticed it, the E-rank hunter was holding a dagger. Well, it shouldn't be too important, is it? It didn't matter where that weapon came from. Indeed. What's important here, though, was the type of the weapon. Kong T-Sik quickly concluded his assessment. The class that used daggers and utilized quick movements. His opponent was a super close type damage dealer. Most likely, his specialty was assassination. What a coincidence that their specialities happened to be the same. However, this guy only underwent his reawakening not too long ago. The difference in experience should be absolutely massive. He might not even be able to properly utilize the skills at his disposal. Let me teach you a thing or two as your senior. Kong T-Sik extracted a knife from his hips and smirked derisively at the ranky hunter. Can you do something like this? And then, Kong T-Sik activated his stealth skill, thereby disappearing from the spot. That caused the ranky hunter to get flustered and he hurriedly looked around his vicinity. Kong T-Sik could see his naked panic and confusion quite clearly. But that's so obvious. The stealth skill didn't only make one's body go transparent. The body, the sound, and even the smell. The skill that cloaked everything about the person activating it. That was the stealth skill in a nutshell. There were only a handful of assassin-type hunters who could use this skill in the entire world. Clang, two daggers collided in the air and sparks flew off. With his stealth skill deactivated, one could now see Kong T-Sik's wide-open eyes. What? But how? The E-rank hunter's dagger had accurately blocked off his own dagger. There are life forms holding murderous intentions towards the player. Kill them all in order to secure your own safety. If you do not follow this instruction, a corresponding penalty will be given. The number of enemies left to kill, 1. The number of killed enemies, 0. Jinwoo confirmed the emergency quest message and breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't a waste of time. He was kinda worried that if Kong T-Sik didn't take the initiative, Jinwoo wouldn't receive the emergency quest notification. It was quite unlike how it was with Hwang Dong-seok and his gang back then. That was why he tested the system out, and it was as he expected. The moment Kong T-Sik revealed his murderous intent, the message popped up. The two daggers locked in a deadly embrace continued to push against each other. It seemed that their strength was about the same. It was here when Jinwoo's eyes gleamed dangerously. He got faster. Jinwoo had been displaying an already high level of agile movements, but now that he had gotten even faster, Kong T-Sik found it quite disorientating. Jinwoo closed the distance in the blink of an eye and sank his poison fang of Kasaka down on Kong T-Sik's thigh. Nice. The added effects of the Kasaka dagger kicked in as well. It was a bit regretful that the paralysis didn't work, But still, this fight had become just a tad easier now. However, Kong T-Sik was a high-ranked hunter himself, so his resistance was nothing to scoff about. His dagger aimed at Jin Woo's vitals and continued to fly in. Swish, swish. Jin Woo evaded the blade with only a hair's breadth and also attacked Kong T-Sik's vital spots. Cold sweat drops formed on the foreheads of both men. Our speeds are about the same. We're moving at the same speed. Two men were inwardly admiring each other's agile movements and continued to clash in a dazzling display of super close proximity knife fighting. I gotta break this stalemate somehow. Jin Woo gathered strength in his eyes. The moment his eyes met Jin Woo's, Kong T-Sik flinched slightly for some reason. What was that? It worked. Jin Woo knew that he had won now. On the other hand, a small earthquake erupted in Kong T-Sik's eyes. How come my body is? After he had met Jin Woo's gaze, his body felt as heavy as if he was floundering in deep water or some such. His trusty speed began decreasing as well. Wounds on Kong T-Sik's body increased quickly one by one. This is impossible. Kong T-Sik's thoughts became confused and messy. This was, without a doubt, a debuffing effect. But he had never ever heard of a case where an assassin class was able to use a debuff magic. Assassination was not his speciality then. If that was the case, then what was up with his crazy speed? However, Kong T-Sik had stopped his train of thoughts there. His confusion had rapidly morphed into panic. Instead, Jin Woo succeeded in getting close to Kong T-Sik's chest and stabbed down on the latter with the poison fang of Kasaka. Kong T-Sik's eyes shot open wider. Both men knew right away at that moment. The victor had been truly decided with that one move. Crimson red blood pooled in Kong T-Sik's mouth. It was gushing up from his chest. As blood leaked out from the side of his lips, Kong T-Sik formed a smirk. To actually run into a reawakened hunter inside a lowly rank D dungeon. The dagger in Kong T-Sik's hand fell to the floor. He continued to pant heavily as he leaned his head closer and whispered something in Jin Woo's ear. Jin Woo silently listened to those last words, before pulling the dagger out from Kong T-Sik's chest. Just like a dress slipping off a clothes hanger, Kong T-Sik crumpled to the floor, lifeless. The expected messages did pop up, but Jin Woo's expression wasn't so good. Just like the last time, the aftertaste of killing someone remained bitter and nothing to feel too happy about, even though the other guy attacked first and initiated this fight. If there were no rewards, then this would be one hell of a loss-loss situation. Reward 1. 5 additional stat points. Huh? Jin Woo formed a confused expression. The reward on offer was far less than when compared to fighting Hwang Dong-seok and his goons. But it was a far harder opponent this time, though. It was here that Jin Woo lowered his gaze and ended up spotting something rather odd. There was a spot of flickering light about as big as a coin gleaming on the corpse of Kong T-Sik. Jin Woo's eyes grew wider and wider. Jin Woo calmed his trembling heart and quietly reached out towards the chest area of Kong T-Sik where that flickering light was coming from. Indeed, he wasn't seeing things just now. A rune stone. Are you talking about that rune stone? His heart began pounding even harder than before. The skill Kong T-Sik used had now become a rune stone and was waiting to be discovered on his body. Stealth was a rare skill that only a select few hunters could use. Jin Woo looked back at Song Kai-yeol. With what has happened here, I think it's impossible to continue on with this raid anymore. For the time being, you two should leave the dungeon and contact the association. I'll remain here and search for other survivors. Song Kai-yeol instantly realized what Jin Woo was trying to do. He's going to close the gate all by himself. On the way, he discovered the cold corpses of Kim Sang-sik and the other hunter. This was the power of a high-ranked hunter. If such a hunter really wanted to, then killing a few lower-ranked hunters could be done in the blink of an eye. Jin Woo's expression hardened as he walked past them. Jin Woo discovered a lone convict struggling on the ground not too far from him. That crazy beastard, Kong T-Sik killed everyone. He killed everyone. What the FCK happened? Did he leave? There's blood on your clothes. Did you get done in by him, too? Jin Woo didn't reply and simply raised his head to stare straight ahead, towards where the boss was. A confused, questioning expression floated up on the face of the convict. Feels like it's a bit stronger than a regular rank D dungeon boss, too. I'm getting really curious about its attack patterns, you see. The convict listened to those words and lost his cool, roaring out at the top of his voice. What the FCK are you even talking about? Jin Woo calmly continued on with what he wanted to say. Before all that, though, I gotta ask you about something. You remember the girl you raped before? What? Which one are you talking about? You a family member of the victim? Jin Woo's brows quivered. Just now, this man asked which one, rather than answering with yes or no, meaning he had hurt well more than 1 or 2 girls. Hunters possessed extraordinary strength, so if they wanted to, they could become a horrifying monster at any time. and this beastard used its strength to violate women until now. With that, Jin Woo's mind was made up. The convict finally realized what Jin Woo was planning to do here. He cried out and shook his head around wildly after seeing the group of hobgoblins. The blue convict's pants began dyeing in a yellow color as well. Jin Woo took a deep breath and he chucked the convict among the waiting hobgoblins. Picking up on the smell of a fresh, living prey, hobgoblins pounced on the convict all at once and began tearing into his stomach. As the convict desperately struggled on and thrashed about, the vessels in his eyes burst open one by one, dyeing his eyes utterly crimson red. Even though the convict gradually lost his consciousness, hobgoblins greedily and restlessly tore into him. Just what would it feel like to be devoured alive by the disgusting monsters? There it is, a huge hobgoblin, definitely the boss of this dungeon, sat arrogantly over yonder on the other side of the boss room. With its subordinates all too preoccupied with the fresh prey, there was not one guard around the boss itself, which meant that this was the perfect opportunity. Jin Woo immediately dashed past the hobgoblins in the blink of an eye and arrived before the boss. The surprised hobgoblin boss quickly stood up, but before it could complete the action, its head fell and rolled on the ground. The expressions of the agents hardened in an instant. 9 people entered it, yet only 3 walked out alive. This undoubtedly qualified as a huge incident. What with several similarly bad incidents occurring within a single district, it was little wonder why these association agents felt like they had stepped on an almighty pile of dog poo at this very moment. They wanted to make sure there were no other survivors, but the gate closed on them, so that was no longer possible, too. This was precisely the reason why Jin Woo waited around until the time limit was almost up, however. With this, the testimonies of the 3 survivors would have to suffice. One of the agents spoke with a complicated tone of voice. Just now, the investigation department has received a telephone call from the chairman of the Joomgang Industries, wishing to hand himself over. It was here that Song Kai-yol entered into the conversation. The chairman of the Joomgang Industries, you say? He's the father of the victim, and he allegedly has paid off the hunter Kong T-Sik from the monitoring division to murder the convicts. Oh, the chairman had confessed to everything after he heard that Kong T-Sik was indeed successful in killing the rapist. There was nothing here that could be seen as problematic, except for one thing. One of the agents asked the part that felt the most suspicious to him. Just who delivered the final killing blow to Mr. Kong T-Sik, who was a rank B hunter. Just before Jin Woo was about to speak the truth, he recalled the face of Yu Jin Ho. What a missed opportunity this is, but looks like I won't be helping that kid out with his raid quota after all. By making an excuse of him being a reawakened hunter and going ahead with the reassignment test, he'd not be able to humor Yu Jin Ho's plan anymore. Sure, Jin Woo was kind of bummed out about the promised building, but oh well. Well, naught I can do here now. Jin Woo thought as such and was about to open his mouth, but then, it was me. I'm the one who killed Kong T-Sik. The questioning agent still didn't look convinced, however. Song Kai-yol Hunter Nim, are you saying that you brought down Kong T-Sik Hunter Nim? His suspicions had merit. Not only was Song Kai-yol a rank C hunter, but he also had lost his left arm as well. On the other hand, wasn't Kong T-Sik often referred to as a high-ranked hunter, someone who was ranked B? Have you all forgotten just who is behind me? Just as the gazes of everyone focused on her, Lee Ju-hui's face reddened and she quickly lowered her head. Lee Ju-hui was a B-ranked hunter. She hadn't been mentioned until now because her class was not combat-related. But when looking only at her rank, then she was a high-ranked hunter, just like Kong T-Sik had been. Why wouldn't a rank C hunter be able to defeat a rank B hunter when a rank B healer was lending her aid from the side? Why are you lying to them? Song Kai-yol replied back in a whisper as well. I thought that there must be a good reason why you were trying to conceal your abilities. Did I overstep my boundaries? Of course, he didn't. I've received a lot of your help until now, so I'm glad to hear that I was able to help out you now, even if it's just a small thing. Meanwhile, one of the agents walked closer to the 2 men. Mr. Song Kai-yol, why don't you come with us? Help us for a minute or 2 with writing up the report. Alright, let's get going, then. Would you like to walk with me for a little while? Is she talking about that dinner date? He was starving after moving around for a bit today, so he found her suggestion to his liking. Jin Woo agreed with a welcoming expression. Okay, let's. As if they had made a promise earlier, the 2 young people began quietly walking side by side under the soft lights of the street lamps. Ju-hui's eyes remained fixed to her toes, because, if she tried to raise her head, her gaze automatically drifted towards to her side. She tried very hard not to think about it, but it was of no use. In the past, she found him comfortable to talk to, but now, the current Jinwoo was overflowing with this certain sense of power. She found it much harder to talk to him now as a result. Just what happened? He was strong enough to subdue a rank B hunter without too much trouble. He had changed so drastically. Ju Hui stopped walking first and with some difficulty broke the ice. Actually, I think it'll be impossible for me to eat anything today. Let me return this to you in the meantime. Ju Hui handed over a magic crystal to Jinwoo. It was none other than the same crystal he entrusted to her back in the underground temple. But today isn't the only day, you know. There's no need to return this to me now. Ju Hui shook her head slowly. I'm going back home next week. He heard that she was quitting the life of a hunter, but now it seemed that she was leaving the city altogether. Jinwoo formed a rueful expression. Is it because of that incident back then? Well, it's not simply because of that, but perhaps she ended up recalling the events of that day. Ju Hui's complexion darkened. Back then, when everyone else was trembling from despair, only Jinwoo's eyes burned fiercely with a strong resolve. Ju Hui was nearest to him, so she got to see those eyes. It was like they were shouting out to the rest of the world so they can hear his will to survive. She had no regrets over quitting the life of a hunter since it didn't even suit her personality to begin with. However, she couldn't help but feel really bad after realizing that it'd be tough to meet Jinwoo ever again. Will he think of me as a weird person if I ask him about meeting each other again? It was rather unfortunate, but there were some things in this world that she couldn't really do anything about. If you come down to Busan one day, please give me a call. I'll buy you really good sushi. Sounds good. When Jinwoo formed a smile, Ju Hui smiled back at him. And so, Ju Hui didn't get to say the words she truly wanted to say. She simply performed a short goodbye and turned around to leave. The way back home never felt this long to her before. After sending Ju Hui home, Jinwoo also returned to his place. The east of the United States. Late at night, Hwang Dong-soo was the main hunter of the guild, Scavenger, one of the top guilds in the entire USA. Not only that, but he was also an S rank as well. And just before he went to sleep, he received a phone call informing him of a shocking matter. My older brother is dead. I want you to speak slowly and tell me everything in detail. Got that? The name of his older brother was Hwang Dong-seok. My older brother and his 8 teammates all died, and only 2 others escaped unhurt. And the 2 who survived were only a rank D and a bloody E. Something smelled fishy here. The older brother Hwang Dong-soo knew would never sacrifice his own life for a far weaker teammate. Also, what if that said teammate happened to be a temp? There was no need to even mention it. However, only the ranks D and E walked away alive, while his older brother and other C-ranked hunters all perished in that dungeon. Right now, he was in a far-off foreign nation after being scouted away by one of America's top guilds. But back when he was still in Korea, his brother did everything possible to look after him and be a good brother. He might not have been a good human being, but he was a great, precious brother. I was planning to invite him here once I've secured my foothold. But now, to think he'd meet an accident before that happened. Hwang Dong-soo bit his lower lip. Fax me all the information on the 2 surviving members. My number is. Hwang Dong-soo ended the phone call and then called his manager next. On the white pages, photos of 2 hunters, their names, and their brief bio could be seen. The rank D hunter, Yoo Jin-ho, and a rank E, Seong Jin-woo. Hwang Dong-soo alternated his gaze on the 2 men's photos and gritted his teeth in determination. I'm sure I'll get some answers from either one if I asked them personally. Laura, what would happen if I were to kill some people in Korea? Do you really mean that? Yes. There was a bout of silence before the woman's voice continued on. The states have yet to sign an agreement to exchange hunter criminals with South Korea. Mr. Hwang, you are now an American citizen, so you'll get a hearing in a US court instead. Good to hear that. Looks like I'll have to make a trip to Korea for a while. Something happened there. Can you clear up my schedule for a bit? However, Mr. Hwang, if you leave so suddenly like this, the operations in the guild will grind to a halt. Tell me just how far my schedule's been booked for. You're fully booked out for the next 2 months. 2 months, is it? Fine. After that, I will need some free time, so don't schedule anything. I don't need a long time, either. Just 2 weeks. I'll only need 2 weeks to pop in and out of Korea. Understood. What should I tell the upper management? Tell them I'm going to my brother's funeral. After Jinwoo and Yoo Jin-ho exited from the van, the waiting hunters quickly gathered around them. For some reason, there was almost no normal person in this group. Most of them seemed to have some difficulty with their mobility. There was one person who looked to be suffering from an illness, while another was clearly an alcoholic. Not only that, there was an underage girl too, someone that neither the association nor the guild would admit to their ranks. From a casual glance, she looked to be a high schooler. Is it okay to bring a child here? I asked for a professional advice, and apparently there is no problem according to the law. Hyung-nim. Actually, the only reason why people don't hire underage hunters is that there would be hell to pay if something went sideways. Jin-woo nodded his head. In that case, it should be fine. Really now, only Jin-woo and Yoo Jin-ho were going to enter the gates anyway, so the odds of something going wrong were as good as 0%. Indeed, these people were only here to make up the numbers. In order to get the permit to clear a C-rank gate, one needed at least 10 hunters, after all. That was why 8 extra people had to be recruited. And sure enough, these 8 understood very well why they were here, too. These people all possessed the hunter license, but couldn't act as one due to their circumstances. Most who answered the call to gather were suffering from the hardships of life in various ways. Excuse me, if we really do that, we can get 3 million won. No need to participate in any huntings. No actual need to even enter the dungeon itself. 3 million won per raid. For a payment of simply lending one's name so they would be permitted to enter the gates. It sounded just too good to be true. I guarantee you that the terms offered are for real. Yoo Jin-ho stood stiffly, looking rather serious now. Even his expression had become grave. However, you are not to discuss any facet of the events that'll take place here with anyone. Do not forget that the moment you break the vow of secrecy, you'll be forced to pay back 10 times the money you were paid, as per the contract you all signed. Hunters murmured to each other in hushed whispers. Just what were these 2 young hunters planning to do inside the gate that they offered up such enticing terms? They were curious, but no one came out and asked. We should get started. Understood, Hyung-nim. What is that? It's a full set of reinforced armor, crafted by a famous guild of master craftsmen in Italy. Hyung-nim, don't you think we need at least this type of equipment if we were to clear a dungeon by ourselves? Jin-woo slowly facepalmed. What's the matter, Hyung-nim? Unable to watch on any longer, Jin-woo reached out, yanked loose the longsword attached to Yoo Jin-ho's waist, and dropped it on the ground. Yoo Jin-ho tried to bend down in order to pick up the sword only to lose his balance, and he toppled over ungainly. Plop. Jin-woo did his best to suppress the rising tides of anger and spoke with great difficulty. While I'm still being civil, take them off. Yes. However, after struggling for a bit to stand back up, Yoo Jin-ho called out to Jin-woo. Hyung-nim. What now? Please help me. I can't stand up. Jin-woo spat out a long sigh while looking at Yoo Jin-ho reaching out to him. In the end, they agreed on the kid wearing a helmet, and nothing else. With a satisfied face, Yoo Jin-ho jumped inside the gate. As soon as the 2 men walked into the dungeon one by one, the remaining hunters all slowly shuffled towards the gate. One of them piped up with a worried voice. Judging from the way they acted, they looked like a couple of amateurs. Another agreed, while staring at the gate's surface. You're right. The 2 people's conversation opened the floodgate of words from the remaining hunters. Everyone began speaking their minds now. What will happen if those 2 get killed inside the dungeon? Well, we all got paid the contract signing fee already, so... What the hell? The raid leader is only a rank D. Hearing that, everyone else stiffened up from the shock. However, what shocked them even more was the following search result. The dude next to the rank D is only a measly E. Isn't it way too dangerous for a rank E to enter a rank C gate? 1 D and an E wants to clear a rank C dungeon. How can that even be possible? Also, the raid team leader has no record of leading a team before. What the heck? Why would these 2 young men? Wasn't this no different than committing suicide? It was not for nothing that the association had set a strict rule of one needing 10 people, with 5 rank C hunters, as the bare minimum if one wanted to enter a rank C gate. Then, this happened. Jin-woo and Yoo Jin-ho hurriedly emerged from the gate. Yoo Jin-ho was panting laboriously. Steam slowly rose up from the bodies of 2 young men carrying tired expressions. Oh, they managed to escape unhurt. What a relief. Hunters welcomed the 2 with happy expressions. They were all thinking that these 2 only roamed around the entrance of the dungeon like a pair of lost kids, because the time between them entering and leaving was fairly short. However, what was going on here? The expressions of the hunters gradually changed, because they all heard someone crying out in alarm. That was why. The gate is closing. What? Everyone hurriedly shifted their gaze over to the gate. Oh my gosh. Look. They killed the B-boss. The gate is turning blurry and illusory, just as it would when the boss of the dungeon was killed. While the hunters couldn't hide their shocked disbelief, Jin-woo utterly disregarded their gazes and quietly asked Yoo Jin-ho, "Where is the next one?" "It's about an hour's drive from here, Hyung-nim." "Okay, let's go." Jin-woo and Yoo Jin-ho headed straight to the van. Meanwhile, the 8 hunters stared at the duo's backs with completely dumbfounded faces. Realizing that they weren't following him, Yu Jinho turned his head and called out to them. "Let's hurry up, everyone. We barely have enough time to go to 2 more gates today." The jaws of the hunters all dropped to the floor from that declaration. Those 2 managed to clear a rank C dungeon, and they are going for another raid, too. Everyone present was thinking the exact same thing. Just who are these people? Inside the offices of the White Tiger Guild, located in the same district. Tomorrow's the day for the new recruits to start training, yet how could you have failed to book a single gate until now? Answer me, Mr. Vice Chief. The Vice Chief Hyan Kaichial lowered his head in embarrassment. My apologies, Chief. The thing is, there is a raid team that quickly bids for every gate rank C opening up in our jurisdiction. 250 million won. There is a crazy beastard who spent 250 million won on a single rank C gate. On Song-min became utterly speechless. The best anyone could hope for, in terms of financial return from a gate rank C, was only around 200 million won. Paying 250 million won was, simply put, being a hopeless moron who paid way too much. The upper limit for a single C-rank gate set by the White Tiger Guild was 100 million won. One could now clearly see why Hyan Kaichial was feeling rather aggrieved at the moment. Who are these beastards? On Song-min swallowed his saliva and accessed the information on this strange raid team and its members. The leader's name was apparently Yu Jinho. First time I hear that name. It was On Song-min's job to scout new recruits for the guild. That was why he had remembered the names of freelancer hunters who had at least displayed a modicum of excellence in the past. One name kind of stood out. Xiang Jinwu. Xiang Jinwu. Where have I heard this name before? On Song-min did his best to dig through his memory, until he finally recalled the incident of the dual dungeon from 2 months ago that had been the topic of a rather lively discussion among those who went there. Indeed, it was none other than the White Tiger Guild that went to assist the association during that event. Hey, Kaichiala, do you remember that dual dungeon incident 2 months ago? The one where our hunters had to go and take a look. Yes, Chief, I remember. What was the name of that survivor? You remember it? It's Xiang Jinwu, a ranky hunter. I knew it. He wasn't sure of it, but well, he was proven right once more. On Song-min instinctively realized it. There was something fishy going on here. Not once did his instincts that activated only in these sorts of situations let him down. Never. On Song-min shouted out an order to the rest of the employees in the 2nd division. Everyone, stop what you're doing, and get me every single data and information on the hunters Yu Jinho, ranked D, and Xiang Jinwu, ranked E. Right now. The responses from these excellent employees, when facing a dangerous situation regarding their own survival, simply exceeded one's imaginations. It wasn't for nothing that they were called the elites of all elites. Reports came in one after the other, fast. As it turned out, Yu Jinho didn't possess any particularly noteworthy background that required an immediate attention. Disregarding the fact that he was the 2nd son of Yujin Construction's owner, he could be described as ordinary, even. However, Xiang Jinwu was quite a different story altogether. Since the dual dungeon incident, he's been involved in 3 more incidents, and he walked away from all of them unscathed. When On Song-min spoke in a questioning tone of voice, Hyan Kaichial quickly followed up. Not only that, he's a ranky hunter too, Chief. The first time Xiang Jinwu and Yu Jinho met was when the latter went for his very first raid. Only the 2 of them walked away alive. And now, these 2 had formed a raid team and were going around like a pair of madmen, clearing 2-3 dungeons in a single day. This definitely stinks. What could they possibly be doing in the dungeons? I wonder. Hold on. I remember now. There was a rumor about a really influential owner of a big company busy wooing S-ranked hunters in private doing the rounds, wasn't there? Could it be? A single puzzle piece fell to its place inside On Song-min's head. If his guess was right, then it made sense. This guy, he's definitely a reawakened hunter. A reawakened hunter, you say? Hyan Kaichial's eyes became round dots resembling a rabbit's eyes. But On Song-min was sure of it. That's right. A ranky hunter was no different from a regular person. If there was an incident, then such hunters were as good as dead. However, this Xiang Jinwu kept surviving, totally unhurt to boot, from several large-scale incidents that killed most of the participating hunters. Of course, he could be lucky. Sure. However, the 3rd and last incident. The situation with this particular incident caused by the agent of the monitoring division, Kong T-Sik, was rather different from the rest. The record said that a rank C mage combined strength with a rank B healer to defeat Kong T-Sik. Bullshit. Hunters in the monitoring division all specialize in combat. If Kong T-Sik wasn't a moron, he'd try to dispose of the highest ranked hunter with the low combat potential, the rank B healer first. There was no physical evidence, but he was getting more and more sure of his guesses being right. Xiang Jinwu now possessed abilities matching that of a high-ranking hunter after going through a reawakening process. Yu Jinho coincidentally took part in the raid and saw the abilities of Xiang Jinwu. And now, Yu Jinho was testing out this and that in preparation to scout Xiang Jinwu to his father's new guild. When he thought like that, everything seemed to click. On Songmin picked up his coat hanging on the back of his chair and quickly put it on. Kaichiala, let's go. He also didn't forget to mobilize his right-hand man, of course. Pardon me, where are we going, Chief? What do you mean, where? We're going to scout a new talent, that's what. And you have to personally go to scout this new guy. Why not? Is there a law against doing that? On Songmin retorted and hurriedly left the office, causing Haiyan Kaichial to tilt his head this way and that, but still, he chased after the senior officer. Now this is so strange. It had been over 2 years since he became the vice chief, yet it was his first time seeing On Songmin personally go out on a job. Hyung Nim, is there some other business you need to attend to later? No, not really. Why do you ask? I haven't seen you hurrying up this much with hunting before. Yu Jinho was feeling truly astonished today. He already knew very well that Jinwu was strong, but today, he seemed to be on another dimension altogether. But that was par for the course, really. Jinwu inwardly laughed out. Well, monsters in this dungeon were werewolves, after all. A title given to a hunter skilled in hunting wolves. When facing animal-type monsters, all of your stats will increase by 40%. The buff given by the title Slaughterer of Wolves of course came into effect against the werewolves as well. How could the monsters from a rank C dungeon contend with him, when his level was already so high to begin with? Never mind the effect of that buff helping him out, too. Thanks to that, Yu Jinho had been kept real busy while trying to extract all those magic crystals from the dead monsters. He even had to drink 5 vials of the HP potion, too. He shook his head several times, complaining that he wouldn't be able to eat lunch now, after the potions filled him up completely. One couldn't find the addresses of hunters on the association's website. The only things appearing there were the names of hunters and their ranks. A hunter could provide the relevant information themselves, but Jinwu didn't even leave behind his contact number there. But not only had this guy known his phone number, he was waiting near Jinwu's home, so without a doubt, he must have gathered enough information before showing up here. Now that I think about it, he abruptly remembered something. I sensed a gaze on me earlier today, so I'm guessing that belonged to one of your people. The Hunters, the Reapers, the Night Order, the Shining Star, and then us, the White Tiger. I'm sure you've heard of these names before. On Songmin read off the names of the top 5 guilds in South Korea, one by one. On Songmin presented his business card. My name is On Songmin, and I'm in charge of the 2nd Division of the White Tiger Guild, one of the top 5 in the country. Our role is to scout talented hunters and manage them. If Xiang Jinwu was any other hunter, he'd have lowered his head 90 degrees before a business card was even brought out, and only then get to the main topic. Unless one was an S rank or an A. Pretty much all hunters dreamed of entering the White Tiger. Honestly, On Songmin was hoping for that kind of reaction as well. Unfortunately, Jinwu was different, not showing much reaction at all. He calmly asked what he wanted to ask first. Why does an officer of the White Tiger Guild perform background checks on someone like me? On Songmin inwardly flinched. We wish to scout you, Mr. Xiang Jinwu. We promise to offer you double the amount of terms as offered by the Yujin Construction, no strings attached. On Songmin smiled deeply. Yujin Construction was still in the middle of testing Xiang Jinwu out. They are being stupid. The speed at which he could clear a rank C dungeon, the publicity value of a reawakened hunter, and the calmness he was displaying in the current situation, etc. No matter which side it was, there was no need to test this man out at all. There's no way that they have offered anything good, since they wouldn't have figured out what his true worth is. That was why On Songmin was confident of doubling whatever terms Yujin offered this man. No, he was confident of offering something even better. However, Jinwu's stare became even colder. How did you find out about me? If Xiang Jinwu's voice actually had any physical weight, then that sentence would have crushed him to death, thought On Songmin. What is this? This incredible pressure. It was almost as if the other party was considering him as an enemy. Well, it was true that he had Jin Woo followed, and one-sidedly demanded to meet like this. From Jin Woo's perspective, it would be perfectly reasonable to consider On Song-min as his enemy. On Song-min hurriedly explained himself. It wasn't our original intention to pry into your private affairs. We received information that someone was clearing rank C dungeons in our district at an alarming rate, so we were investigating that. And that led us to find out about you, Seong Jin Woo Hunter Nim. The corners of Jin Woo's lips slowly arched up. On Song-min thought that was a sign of an incoming positive answer and smiled along as well. Have you made up your mind? You promised to double the amount offered? Yes, that's correct. In that case, how much is the building the White Tiger calls home? On Song-min's face froze for a second there. Is he questioning the financial muscle of the White Tiger? But there was no need to get worked up here. Indeed, this was a great opportunity to advertise his guild. There was nothing to hide, and absolutely no reason why he couldn't talk, either. This was for the better, he thought. The estimated price is around 50 billion won. Also, although there are different businesses using the building aside from us, it still belongs to the White Tiger Guild. On Song-min proudly spoke. Can you hand over that building to me, then? I beg your pardon. On Song-min's eyes opened up real wide. He doubted his own hearing, so he asked back. Can you explain what you mean by that? Jin Woo calmly explained himself. You see, Yujin has promised to hand over a building worth around 30 billion won. If the White Tiger's building is indeed around 50 billion, well, it's not exactly the double the price. But I can overlook such things. 30 billion. On Song-min couldn't close his slack jaw. Seong Jin Woo's career spanned 4 years. However, most of those were spent as a rank E, and it hadn't been long since he got noticed by someone. In other words, he must have gone through his reawakening process not too long ago. Yet, just how incredible was his ability that someone like Yu Myung-hwan, famous for his wily business smarts, promised the huge amount of 30 billion won. Could he be lying here? Because I won't be able to confirm if this is true or not. On Song-min narrowed his eyes, feeling suspicious. As if he had read On Song-min's thoughts, Jin Woo pulled out his phone and quickly dialed a number. That building you wanted to give to me, how much did you say it was? Well, the appraised value is around 30 billion won. But once it's finished and our guild starts occupying it, the value should rise up even higher. Hyung Nim. On Song-min was now deeply mired in uncertainty and confusion. That is, I should say that such a big amount is, well beyond my ability to. If you just give me some time, I can speak to the higher-ups in the guild and then. Jin Woo abruptly cut him off. In that case, our discussion ends here. On Song-min became speechless. His head drooped slightly, as his head was quickly filled with the reason for this failure. In the end, we simply didn't have enough information. Being too hasty brought about this failure. After he picked up on the scent of this huge jackpot, he got too excited and forgot to move in a more cautious and prepared manner. If he had learned of what Yujin's offer was like, get the full backing of his guild, and go about his business step by step, then. For now, I need to report this to the guild master. I want to ask you about something. On Song-min raised his head. Jin Woo was no longer smiling. Gulp. Just as On Song-min swallowed some dry saliva, Jin Woo asked him a question with a low, heavy voice. How many people know about me? It's only me for the time being. I was too anxious to scout you, so I didn't even stop to report to my superiors yet. Actually, there was one more person. Hyun Kai-cheol, his subordinate but also his right-hand man. On Song-min concealed the presence of Hyun Kai-cheol for the time being. He was worried that Jin Woo might get real unhappy if he learned that there were 2 people instead of 1. All the hair on his back stood up at once. Don't turn around. A cold voice came from his side. Jin Woo, who had been sitting across him until then, had vanished without making a sound and was now standing right next to him, still not visible to the naked eye. As stealth, cold sweat drops formed on Song-min's forehead. Could he be angry at me? Hunters were, in general, monsters. He knew this well, because he got to observe them from a close vantage point every single day. That was why he was always super respectful towards them. Did me spying on him and following him around cause an issue here? Should I have requested protection from the guild before coming here? I don't want to see the number of people who know about me increase. So, if I start hearing things about me, can I assume that it came from you, Chief On Sang-min, or your subordinate? It had been a while since Jin Woo stopped grabbing his shoulder, yet On Song-min felt like he was being crushed by the younger man's words. He's not putting on airs, either. Why did he feel this way? On Song-min was so sure of the fact that Jin Woo was fully capable of harming him. My gut instinct when evaluating people is almost always right. A thick strand of cold sweat rolled down the side of On Song-min's forehead. who knew he could use stealth, excellent abilities, and even a rare skill, too. It was not for nothing that Eugen came up with an offer of 30 billion. They aren't ones to start a losing business deal, indeed. I'll never talk about this matter ever again. I'll make sure that Kai Chiol, no, my subordinate, will keep his mouth shut as well. Keeping everything hush-hush was something On Song-min also wanted, too. Heck, he probably would have requested it himself first. An excellent hunter not affiliated with anyone. There was no reason to increase the competition by spreading the rumor around. I'll trust you, Chief On. With those words, the presence beside On Song-min disappeared completely. Chief, On Song-min's complexion was poor. Hyan Kai-chiol asked, his voice full of worry. What happened? Did it not work out with Seong Jin-woo? On Song-min's trembling hands managed to pull out a cigarette. While sliding it between his lips, he made his reply. Hey, Kai-chiol, I think we just ran into a far bigger jackpot than our initial estimates. He definitely had to scout that man. That was the only line of thought in his head. Thankfully, there was still a chance. Name, Seong Jin-woo. Level, 39. Class, None. Title, Slaughterer of Wolves. HP, 7220. MP, 683. Tiredness, 0. Strength, 97. Stamina, 59. Agility, 97. Intelligence, 51. Perception, 81. Reduction in physical damage, 20%. Passive skills, LV. Max, Tenacity LV. 1. High-grade dagger technique.